Welcome to Experience Oldsmar, a podcast created by and for those who love this special place. I'm your host, Deb Vitrelli, broadcasting from the top of Tampa Bay in beautiful downtown Oldsmar. In tow is our awesome engineer, Mark McGinley. Aww. Share some love. We are honored to have Oldsmar City Manager Al Braithwaite joining us. Al is a current member of the Florida City and County Management Association, the International City Management Association, and the Government Finance Officers Association. Welcome, Al.
Thank you. Long time no see.
Long time no see. So based on your financial background with the city, this time of the year was always special to you. I'm talking about budget time. So our audience may not be aware that our fiscal year runs October 1st through September 30th. Currently, city departments have pretty much completed their preliminary budgets. So what are the next steps involved to adopt the 2021-2022 budget?
Well, I'll say that most of the city departments have completed their preliminary budgets. I think the city manager's department is still missing, but we'll get around to that. The next steps, normally what we do is we have meetings with staff, first for capital budget and then for operating budget. Then the council has a workshop for the capital budget to make kind of big picture decisions on our priorities and what we want to spend money on and when. It goes out to about 6 years, which is part of the comprehensive plan. And then the operating budget is kind of where we bring everything together, talk about personnel, talk about assumptions for staffing levels and what we're going to spend our operating money on. There's a budget workshop that's normally after we submit the budget to the council. By charter, we have to give the council a budget in July. As you mentioned, the fiscal year is October 1st. So between basically early July and September 30th, we have the opportunity to have whatever meetings council wants, along with 2 public hearings so that things like the tax rate and issues can be presented to the public so they can have input. And then the budget gets passed to be implemented on October 1st. And that's real simplified, but that's kind of the way the process works each year.
So capital improvement, does that include infrastructure? What does that entail?
Yeah, that's predominantly infrastructure. Generally, capital budget is a definition of an asset that's over a certain threshold and has a useful life over a year. And municipalities have different levels, but the capital is essentially the big stuff.
Okay. So, I mean, it's interesting that there are 2 primary forms of municipal government. Can you help us understand the difference between those 2 types?
I certainly can, because this is a interesting topic, even in Pinellas County. As you said, generally speaking, there are 2 types. One would be referred to as council manager, which is what we have, and the other is called strong mayor. Now, in larger cities, specifically in Pinellas County, St. Pete is a strong mayor form of government. In Hillsborough County, city of Tampa is a strong mayor form of government. In those 2 situations, the mayor actually is the chief executive and administrative official in that they have a great deal of power and be able to make decisions regardless of whether the council necessarily agrees. Oftentimes they hire an administrator to execute, but in that form of government, the mayor is literally a decision maker. In our form of government, the council manager form, the mayor is a ceremonial figurehead and a spokesperson, but all of the votes for the 5 council members, of which the mayor is one, count equally. So in council manager, the theory is supposed to be that the council focuses on policy decisions. The manager, that being me, are responsible for executing them, but I make the decisions that involve the everyday operations of the city. That's kind of the difference.
And that means to the average citizen pretty much that you're in charge.
Well, it's not that the council doesn't have any influence, because any council member could, in response to a request from a citizen, ask that something be put on the agenda. The only point to be made is that the individual council member couldn't just decide the issue themselves. So if they wanted the opportunity to have input on a decision that I might not even think should be in front of the council, they can ask to have it put on the agenda, and we have to put it on the agenda, and then the council as a whole can decide and make me do something however they vote. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit different that a lot of people assume that individual council members can just say, you go to a council member and say, I want this done, and it gets done. And well, in council manager, that's not the way it works. That's really the difference.
Process.
Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, many cities across Tampa Bay experience what I like to call a shut-in effect when COVID-19 made its way into our region. It's hard to believe that was already a year ago. Just facilities were closed, programs stopped, events were canceled. I'm just curious, what was it like for you as city manager to experience the pandemic?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, nobody had any experience in it, so it was brand new territory. On some levels, pretty scary because you weren't sure when the rules that came down from the state and then the county to us tied our hands, so to speak, to say we either couldn't allow people in public buildings or we had to be closed to the public for a certain amount of time. Then now your struggle becomes, how do we do business? Because, we're in the business of emergency operations. So I kind of told my employees there was a point in time where we had a lot of people working from home, but we generally come to work when everybody else is at home, and that's usually an emergency operations, normally with a weather-related storm of some sort. So, we followed the CDC guidelines and we followed the protocols established by the state through the county and the county to us. But the feeling, I guess, if you will, the unknown was, very stressful. We paid a lot of attention. We still try to pay a lot of attention to how our employees are handling it because you don't oftentimes know exactly what they're going through at home. We did have a few surprises that I would say were pleasant in the sense that none of this is pleasant, but when we were sending people home, I really thought we were going to have a tough time getting them back. And they wanted to come back in droves. I'm not sure if that was because they had a week at home with their kids or what it was, but we had people volunteering out of the woodwork to do anything we needed to do. It was really, really heartening to see how our people just come to work and do what they do. On a personal level, it was a little bit, I didn't miss any work. I came to the office every day, and I believe in that. If I'm going to lead this organization, then I've got to be willing to do whatever that entails. So I didn't think of it as something that I wanted to, do from home. We do have meetings via Teams, and we did have meetings in some cases from home while the department heads were, operating however they could. But at the end of that, kind of the first year of it or something, we found out that we were pretty functional no matter how we were doing business, which was, a pleasant surprise. So, yeah, we learned I'm a dinosaur. Some of my people had been kind of begging me to allow telecommuting for years, and I was always against it because, my theory is, well, if you serve the public, you got to be here so they can come yell at you. And if you're not here, they can't come yell at you. Yeah. But the forced experiment of people functioning from home proved to be very productive. And again, I can't say enough. I'm so proud of our employees for, the exposure that they have with, just kept doing what we do. We just didn't miss a beat. You could argue there might have been a couple things we did slower and a couple things that we weren't allowed to do. But, we had summer camp and we had no exposures, no positive cases there. And that was, kind of thought to be a high-risk situation. We executed so many things that we would normally do in this environment, and our employees did it just willingly and with great attitude. I'm so lucky to be around these guys.
Yeah, I was amazed at the leisure service programs and even the library, the stuff that they came up with just to keep some of that programming going was just amazing. Yeah,
a good example that Anthony did those, which you guys were involved in the production of, and I'm grateful for that. But the reading, getting the publisher permission to do those on-site readings for the children's program. I mean, we could name, a bunch of new innovative things that we did to just keep it rolling and keep something pushed out there. But I'm so impressed with how dedicated they were to doing what we do without just missing a beat. I think all of our employees deserve a round of applause, if not more, for that.
Oh.
Of course, they want more money, but
that sounds mean. It's lightning time, or lightning round. Yay. So, Al, what are you currently reading?
Well, the book I'm reading, I hate to admit this, is called Greedy Bastards. And I think I'll leave it at that. There's also a book I'm reading that comes from a leadership seminar we attended. It's called Call Sign Chaos by General Jim Mattis. And chaos, I think, implies erroneously that here's this, highly regarded general in the United States Army, Marines specifically, and chaos really stands for Colonel has another outstanding solution. So that became his call sign. But we attended a webinar, the department heads and more than just the department heads, to listen to General Mattis speak, and it was life-changing. So I've been catching up on the book. I heard him speak before it. We have, as you know, a book club for leaders like yourself and people that are trying to just make themselves better. I skip over the Greedy Bastards one because it does relate to city government in Texas.
I've heard about this book.
Yeah, and it's not quite what the title suggests it is, but it's been interesting.
Now, that's about City Hall funding, am I right?
Partially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a city manager wrote it.
Yes.
She came from Phoenix, went to San Antonio, and it's kind of a description of the challenges that she's had over the years. Now, normally, my reading is much more likely to be aimed at finance, technical stuff, and not necessarily stories, but I couldn't resist this one. And when we heard General Mattis speak, I just had to pick that book up because it was so incredibly inspiring to listen to his thought process, especially as he set the table when he suggested that one of his motives for agreeing to speak was specifically how impressed he was with how many things cities get done. And when a guy of that, prominence focuses on complimenting cities in terms of their responsiveness and ability to get things done that are important to Americans, that blew me away. So listening to him speak was inspirational, but the book is even better.
Yeah, good read.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You finished it.
I did.
I'll catch up.
Okay. Daylight savings time or no daylight savings time?
Well, considering I don't sleep through the night or early bird, I don't know that part matters, but I'll go with daylight savings time. I'm used to it.
Yeah, more golf time. Hey,
fair point.
That's true. All right. And finally, pizza or calzones?
Yes.
A double dipper there.
Yes. Pizza probably, but I'll take both. Thank you. Especially if you're offering.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's our closing song right there. So thank you, Al, for being our guest. And of course, special thanks to our awesome engineer, Mark McGinley. Good job, Mark. Thanks again, Al. Be sure to follow and like the City of Oldsmar on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And to find our list of podcast segments, visit experienceoldsmar.com. I'm your host, Deb Vitrelli. Until next time, I invite you to check out all the great things you can do to truly experience Oldsmar.